What's up guys, Duarte here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and this video is the first of a mini-series that we'll do at the end of each patch, where we are going through Dark Dimension 4 using the best characters on that patch to complete Dark Dimension 4. What does it mean to be the best characters? They have to be good on other game modes like Raids, Arena and Alliance Wars, and they have to be also cheap for us to gear them up and make the best strategy with those specific characters, so we don't have to waste way too many resources, and hopefully also being able to one-shot every single node. So on top of using the best characters, we are going also through the best kill order in order to complete every node with one shot. The characters that we'll be using will be always maxed out at gear tier 15. We are not going to go beyond gear tier 16 because it's not available for the most part. So in this patch and on the next ones we'll always stay at gear tier 15, and the level of the characters will be somewhat between level 80 and level 85. Okay, so with this in mind, let's get started. We are going to take a look at the first 3 nodes of Dark Dimension 4, and in each of the videos we'll go to Global, Cosmic City and the Legendary nodes. Okay, so we are going to start with the first node, and there are a few nodes that I just want to tell right away. So the most important characters for this specific patch are going to be Lady Deathstrike, Silver Samurai, Shang-Chi, Symbiote Spider-Man and Cloak. There are 2 changes that you can make, which is instead of Shang-Chi bringing Mary Hill, and instead of Cloak you can bring Dagger. And the point of this is to always have 1 mutant, 1 bio, 1 tech, 1 skill and 1 mystic character. So you want to balance out the types that you have, 1 of each, and also make sure that you have a balance of clearing negative effects or applying negative effects to the enemies or situations like these that will increase the chance of you of making a consistent strategy in order to be able to one-shot every of these nodes. So we have a tank that applies offense down, we have Symbiote Spider-Man can stun, extend negative effects. Shang-Chi, it does tons of damage, he does turn rewind, and he also removes negative effects, even that is only 1. And then we have Cloak, applies tons of negative effects to the enemies. And then we have a Lady Deathstrike, can extend, can do tons of damage and has a lot of survivability. So with these characters the goal is going to be to one-shot each of the nodes. And on the second node of this free-for-all part, I use Mary Hill instead of Shang-Chi, and I wanted to use Dagger instead of Cloak, but then I forgot. But Dagger, she has a little bit more value because she can remove heal block from your allies. Okay, so let's get started and let's take a look at the priority targets which we have to follow in order to make this as easy as possible, as fast as possible, and being able to one-shot every single of the nodes. Okay, so at the beginning we have Taskmaster is the first you want to get rid of. He applies blinds to us, stuns and removes our positive effects. Then we have Invisible Woman and Human Torch. Those are problematic characters that we want to get rid right away. And finally we have Merc Lieutenant. He gives speed up and offense up to the enemies, and this is something that we want to avoid. We want to avoid as much damage as possible, and we want to avoid the enemies having as many turns as possible. Okay, so as you saw, Taskmaster, we got rid of him before he did his stun. Now we are going to work on Invisible Woman. We don't want her to give barrier to anyone, and we also don't want her to remove the negative effects from the enemies. Then we delete Human Torch because he can flip the negative effects on him. Then Merc LT, he already gave his first turn up, but we don't want him to have a second and start healing up the enemies. And now as you can see we are not full health, but we are doing just fine. And yeah, so I had to put my tablet to charge while I was recording this. That's why we have a little break here. And when you have two enemies that are not such a big deal, just save your cooldown, just use the basic attack, and like this you'll be ready when the next wave comes. Now here we have four problematic characters. We have Rescue, we have Vulture, we have Falcon, and we have Ironheart. You want to get rid of Rescue as fast as possible. She's going to give the barrier, and she can also remove the negative effects from the enemies. So or you get rid of her or you stun her. I decided to stun her. Now Falcon, when he has his first turn, he's going to do tons of damage to us. So you want to apply offense down to him to keep him under control. Then you want to make sure that he doesn't have his second turn, so he doesn't give stun meter to the enemies. Okay, so now we stun him to make sure that he doesn't do anything funny. Now we are going after Vulture. We don't want him to turn rewind us and to apply more slow to us. Now Shocker is going to give offense up to all Sinister 6. Now we only have 2, so it's not a huge problem, but still we got rid of him. Now we want to get rid of Ironheart because she's going to do defense down to us, and that's not something we want. Apply offense down on as many characters as possible. So she did the defense down. I decided that it was better to go after Vision because he does the ability block and he also removes the positive effects from us. That's not something we want. And this opportunity that we had to change from Vision to Ironheart came up because we have a Silver Samurai with a taunt and a defense up, and all the enemies have offense up. So all the problematic enemies are dealt with. So now we just have to use the basics and go to these Iron Mans and finish off the node. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the second node of Dark Dimension 4, the free-for-all lane. And like I said before, we are going to do a small change. We are going to use Mary Hill instead of Shang-Chi. The best combos is going to be Shang-Chi and Dagger, and Mary Hill and Cloak. This is to balance out the removing negative effects from the enemies and also the amount of healing that the team can provide. Okay, so on the second node we start locked behind the Drax. Then we have several problematic characters. We have Doctor Strange, which is very problematic because he removes all our positive effects, flips them into negative effects, and he can also revive other characters. So this is not something we want. You want to get rid of him as fast as possible. Then we have to deal with Star-Lord. He applies blinds, he gives energy to the other enemies around him. This is something that you want to get rid of. Then we have a few characters with high burst damage. We have a Rocket, Elsa, and Ghost Rider. So you want to go after whichever one is with the defense down, and you want to make sure that Mr. Sinister is always slowed. So here he did a clone, that's fine that he does the clone, but you don't want him to have his second turn where he removes the heal block from everyone and does a ton of health through healing to everyone. Okay, so we stunned their Ghost Rider to make sure that he doesn't do anything funny. Star-Lord did the blind, but we were able to resist it, and once again, because we have the taunt, the amount of blinds that is applied to us is not as significant as it would be otherwise, and also because we have Mary Hill with all these minions. Okay, so Ghost Rider is gone, Star-Lord is gone, Mr. Sinister is gone as well, so before the next wave drops, make sure that you have as many cooldowns as possible. So here we have a few problematic characters as well. We have Mysterio, Graviton, we have the Blob, we have Pyro, and we have Elsa. Toad can also be problematic because he removes the positive effects, but is not super problematic. Okay, so because we got stuck behind the Blob, we have to remove the taunt. And with Mysterio, the reason why I attack him early on is because I want to make sure that he has offense down whenever he does his ultimate. And we also want to delay his ultimate as much as possible, because in this specific situation we don't have Shang-Chi and we don't have Dagger, and because of this we will be with one turn heal block. It's not going to be a huge deal because the enemies have slow, but it's still quite problematic. Now you always want to do the special of Lady Deathstrike on Greg, so she repeats the attack, and it also extends the positive effects on her, and that will be a huge advantage. So after that we want to make sure that we get rid of the Gravitons. We don't want them to have their second turns, because on the second turn it's when they apply slow to several characters, slow and bleed. The stun is fine because we have Silver Samurai with immunity, so they can all throw the stuns on him and it will be fine. But the slows on, especially on Mary Hill like we have right now, is a huge problem and you want to avoid it. Okay, so we have the mini wave that comes on the second wave. After you kill a few enemies, we have another Pyro and we have another Graviton and the Toad. You want to get rid of the enemies from the same order, and you want to stun as often as possible Pyro so he doesn't get the extra turn meter, which will stop him from having additional turns. Okay, so here we go, we are finishing off Pyro. We still have Mysterio. Once again, after Mysterio does his ultimate is not a huge deal, and as long as you apply the offense down to him, you should be fine. We have 2 enemies left on the second wave, and now we are going to regenerate the cooldowns to make sure that all of them are available on the third wave. Okay, so here we go, we delete the final Toad and we have the next wave. So we have another Drax, we have another Doctor Strange, Graviton, Pyro and Ghost Rider. Those are the most problematic characters. We want to apply as much offense down as possible, especially on Ghost Rider, so whenever he does his passive attack, when we kill one of the enemies, that he doesn't do super massive damage to us. Okay, so Doctor Strange is at a decent level, he's pretty low and he has all those bleeds, so we want to stun Pyro, making sure that he doesn't do anything funny to us, especially removing the taunt from Silver Samurai. And we want to turn rewind as many enemies as possible with our shield troopers. And this is why Mary Hill is so important. Not only she provides nice amount of healing and defense down against the enemies, she also has these decoys that are super useful, not only being decoys but also doing turn rewind whenever they crit. Can you increase the crit chance of the decoys? Not really. If you try to increase their damage, you can do that by making Mary Hill a striker. That will increase the damage output of the minions, but increasing their crit it's not possible because it's a secondary stat and you cannot increase the secondary stats of the minions. Okay, so we have the third wave and a half, and now we have a Star-Lord, we have Rocket and we have Elsa Bloodstone. We have a second Elsa Bloodstone, so we want to keep them under control, at least to give them offense down, and then we want to deal with the big burst damage characters like Rocket and the Star-Lord. Elsa Bloodstone is also a big burst damage character, but once again, if you apply offense down to them, it's not a huge problem. The difference between Star-Lord and Rocket compared to the Elsa Bloodstones is that they call other characters for assist, and if those characters don't have offense down, then you'll take additional damage, which is important when you are using characters like Ghost or like Yo-Yo. Okay, so now we have the final fourth wave on this specific node, on the second node of Dark Dimension 4. I stunned the Gravitron, but here maybe the Pyro would be a good option as well. Because we have two Pyros, is not like massive to stun one of them, we will always have one active. So make sure that you slow them and make sure that you apply offense down to them, so whenever they do their abilities, especially the ultimate, they have less focus. That's why we apply offense down, and also do less damage with their bleeds. Okay, so we are stuck behind Blob. Now we are going to extend the stun on Graviton, and we have to go after Star-Lord. Once again, we want to avoid him applying blind to us, and we also want to avoid him doing burst damage to us and giving energy to the enemies. Okay, so Star-Lord is down enough. Now we are going a little bit after the Blob and also after Hela. As you saw, Star-Lord died with the bleeds of our team. We have Lady Deathstrike and the Symbiote Spider-Man doing tons of damage thanks to those bleeds and also thanks to the defense down on the enemies. We are stuck once again behind the taunt of the Blob. He gets taunt whenever a Brotherhood ally goes under 50% HP, and that's the two pyros that we have here. Okay, so he's low enough, but it's not good enough for us to let him bleed out. It's a possibility, but he will keep giving deflects to everyone else, so yeah, we want to just get rid of him. Okay, so the first pyro is down. Now we can start focusing on saving our cooldowns, because most of these characters are quite low, and one of them, because it's Greg, it doesn't count, and yeah. Okay, so Ella is gone. We still have the Greg up. Now we go after Mysterio. We have all the cooldowns almost ready. We have the taunt with Silver Samurai, we have the ultimate with the Cloak, and we have all the abilities with the Symbiote Spider-Man. Okay, so here we go. We finished the second node, so now let's take a look at the third node. Okay, so let's get started with the third node, and we are using exactly the same team. Once again, the core of the team that you want to use is Lady Deathstrike, Silver Samurai and the Symbiote Spider-Man. Then you can interchange between Mary Hill or Shang-Chi and Cloak or Dagger, to make sure that you always have one mutant, one bio, one tech, one mystic and one skill character. Okay, so first we have this third node. On the first wave we have several problematic characters. We have tons of burst damage coming from Wasp, from the two Elsas, from Black Bolt and also from Crystal. Of course, Ghost Rider is not here to help us out, and the reason why I always stun first Ant-Man is because he does slow to for our entire team, and like I said before, we want to avoid as much as possible any kind of slows on our team. Okay, so we have the taunt with the Silver Samurai. We are also going to apply offense down for one turn to Wasp, to all the Elsas and to Black Bolt. Offense down on Crystal is not a huge priority, so that's why we avoided it. And now with Lady Deathstrike we are doing tons of bleeds and turning one that, and that allows us to extend the negative effects with Symbiote Spider-Man. This is why the core of the team is Silver Samurai, Symbiote Spider-Man and Lady Deathstrike. Okay, so we go after Crystal. She's going to do her ultimate soon, and her ultimate kills all the minions, so that's something we want to avoid. Black Bolt also got destroyed, Ant-Man also got destroyed, they were pretty low. And because of how valid these characters are so low, we can start saving our cooldowns already. By herself, Wasp is not a huge problem, and Captain America is not a huge problem either. So here Wasp once again dodged, she's dodging everything, used the taunt with Silver Samurai. That was a little bit early, but if you are going to use just basics and it only has 3 energy cooldown, you can recover it before the next wave drops. That's what we do, and we keep the enemies under control, make sure that our minions don't get destroyed. So we go after Wasp. She is almost gone with all her dodges, and that gives us enough time to get the taunt back up again with the Silver Samurai. Okay, so we have the second wave. We are going after a few characters that are problematic. Black Bolt, Baron Zemo. We have Mordo. He applies blind to us, stuns, and heal block, which is something that we want to avoid as much as possible. At this point we had to ignore Baron Zemo because of the immunity. We had no chance of removing it, so we applied the stun to Black Bolt to make sure that he doesn't pings out our minions, even that they died right away, but at least the second wave of them will not. And we keep focusing on Crossbones just to make sure that he doesn't have the taunt. And now we are going finally after Baron Zemo because he's also destroying our minions. He already used his ultimate, so after that is not a huge deal. Crossbones is also not a problem with his ultimate because he has offense down, and that's enough to reduce the damage for us to survive. Okay, so here we go. Now Black Bolt doesn't have the stun, so you have to pay attention to him. Now we turn rewind all the enemies, as many enemies as possible with the Lady Death Strike, one of the reasons why she is so good for Dark Dimension and for raids. We go once again after Black Bolt. We have all our minions, and we have to remember, whenever Mary Hill summons, there is a chance that Black Bolt applies Disrupt to us, and this is something we don't want. Okay, so Black Bolt is gone, Mordo is gone, we still have Baron Zemo, but like I said before, because he already used his ultimate and everything, and we had no chance of dealing with his passive before, we let him stay, and now we are going to finally get rid of him and get rid of the other enemies. So save the cooldowns for the third wave. The Green Goblins, they are very slow characters. If you can keep them with the slow, it's just fine. Now we have a few problematic characters. Once again, we have Vulture, we have the second Baron Zemo. This time we were able to remove the immunity from him, so we can destroy him early on. Then we have Scarlet Witch. She is pretty much meaningless on this wave. We have another Elsa Bloodstone, we have the Ghost Rider, and we have Karnak. Karnak is a character that we can also ignore together with the Green Goblin and Scarlet Witch, and on Captain America you just want to focus on him as much as you need in order to remove the taunt. Okay, so we go after Ghost Rider this time because we don't want him to do that thing with his passive where he gives 500% damage whenever we destroy an enemy. He still has a few bleeds, he should die with the bleeds. We already got rid of Baron Zemo, so now we will be able to keep our minions around. As you can see, Scarlet Witch with the slow and with the fact that she is very slow, she's not doing anything to us, she just did her ultimate, but we had no negative effects, so there is nothing to worry about. We got rid of Vulture, Ghost Rider, and now we go after Elsa Bloodstone, and then we have the 4 remaining characters that are not problematic. So we get the half wave, and then it drops Mordo and Black Bolt. So as you know, Mordo is a priority target, we want to get rid of him as fast as possible. But because we don't have Ghost Rider, it's not a huge deal in case we destroy him. So he applied heal block to 2 of our characters. That's something that is not good. So we'll be here with a problem. We want to avoid any attention from the characters with the heal block by getting the taunt going with Silver Samurai. And with that, we are able to remove Mordo and also many of the other characters. Shocker. The problem with Shocker is giving offense up to everyone else, but if the other Sinister Six allies are under control, you can ignore him as much as possible and focus on the important characters, in this case Black Bolt. Okay, so now it's the time to focus on Shocker. Then we have the Green Goblin left, and he will bleed out, or we just tap him enough in order to get as many cooldowns as possible. We have the third Baron Zemo, so like before, we are going to try to remove that immunity from him. For that, you want to use your skirmishers to remove it, and after you just apply all the negative effects to him as possible, and then turn rewind him. So here I could have tried to remove the immunity and the defense up. It was not necessary, it was just better to turn rewind the enemies and then extend all the negative effects with the Symbiote Spider-Man. Once again, amazing combo between Silver Samurai, Symbiote Spider-Man and the Lady Death Strike. So now we are going to finish off Baron Zemo. We still have Elsa Bloodstone, Crystal as the most problematic characters on this specific wave. So we are going to get rid of them, and then we can slowly tap the enemies and make sure that we have all the cooldown ready for the next wave. And then we also want to save the cooldowns for the upcoming waves. So after we have the global lane, and for that you want to save the cooldowns on Silver Samurai, Mary Hill and Lady Deathstrike. Okay, so we have a Vulture, and like always you want to get rid of Vulture as fast as possible to avoid the slow and also to avoid the turn rewind from his ultimate. For that we are going to use our minions to crit and to turn rewind him to make sure that he doesn't have his turn. You can always stun him as a option. You have Symbiote Spider-Man and Silver Samurai who are able to stun him. And with Vulture removed and Crystal, she already used the special and the ultimate, so there is nothing to worry about her. So the priority target should be Ghost Rider. So let's see if I go after Ghost Rider or Crystal. I went after Ghost Rider. Here I used the ultimate with the Silver Samurai, hoping that I will have enough time to replenish that ultimate. So maybe it wasn't the best option. We still have the taunt. Taunt will always be one of the priorities to have. And now we just have to basic out on Ghost Rider, and we'll be done with the first video of this series, going through Dark Dimension 4 with the best characters, best performing characters for each patch. So stay tuned for the upcoming video where we'll go through the global nodes using once again the best characters, best performing characters for the specific patch. This patch is the patch 5.8, and we'll always do this at the end of the patch. So yeah guys, that's gonna be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the best performing characters for Dark Dimension. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, and if you like the information on this video, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I'll catch you guys later.